I never knew what I wanted to do. I didn't see anything I could possibly do to earn any money. But my grandmother, who lived in the south of France in Menton, got me a job with the vice consul. And I was supposed to be going into diplomatic service. But I used to act with the amateurs. They had two beautiful 18th century theatres. It's unbelievable. And very good amateurs. They'd all been professionals. And I said to her one day, can I see if I can get to the Royal Academy of Rada? And she said, well, I don't think it's a very good idea, but you can try. So I came back to England and I got the Leverhulme Scholarship, which was wonderful. 3 years free tuition and a small allowance. And so I was very thrilled. Then I went off and did it the proper way through repertory, where you do a different play every week. It's unbelievable now. Then I was lucky and came into the West End. And there I was also very lucky in a most strange way that all the plays I went into when I was about 20 were failures, which sounds very astonishing, but it meant that my name was in the paper over and over and over again. Anybody who read it began to think, well, you must be very good to have it all. But it was just sheerly bad freeze. Then I did a lot of films, one with Gracie Fields, which everybody does remember. And she was a dear woman. I'm very fond of her. I acted with some lovely people. Then I had the war, which of course was ruined. I had my name in the lights for the first time at Wyndham's Theatre, which was very exciting. It was up there. I used to go every evening. There it is, with 3 other bigger stars, of course. And then the war came and I joined up. So I had 6 years wasted life. And I came back completely different man, of course. I was what was known in those days a juvenile, not meaning a baby, but a young leading man. And of course I wasn't that anymore. So I had slight worries whether I could get back on the stage. I did, but I'd had an accident in the war, and my spine is absolutely crooked. And I knew the time was coming when I wouldn't be able to act anymore. But fortunately, I'd written a play, and it was a great success. So I thought, oh, well, I better stop now doing what I can't really do properly. And so I became a playwright. I had been in the Paul Temple before I actually took over, because I had been the villain once. So they knew my voice, the Paul Temple people. And Francis Durbridge, he said, I want you to come out to lunch with me. So I thought that was rather odd, because although he was the writer, and I was only the actor, I thought so, and I was quite, I didn't play big parts in Paul Temple. And so he came and he said, we want you to take over Paul Temple. So I said, well, that would be absolutely marvelous. It was done live only for the beginning ones. Then we could, if I made a mistake or anybody made a mistake, we could stop it and do it again. But in the early days, it was quite extraordinary, because it timed it exactly to, however, 29 minutes, I think. And often we might overrun it. And then you saw the producer behind the screen going, so you spoke quick, 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 quick. Or if we were underdoing it, take it, calm. Then we all spoke slowly so we get exactly timing right. If the microphone's there and you've got your script in this hand, it can be heard. And if they heard the pages being turned around, obviously the whole atmosphere goes. So one all had to be terribly careful. We didn't earn a great deal. It was constant, which was wonderful, because actors have long times when they're out of work. So we always knew there'd be Paul Temples coming along. Unfortunately, of course, we did end. Eventually they decided they'd put it on TV. And Marjorie wasn't the right shape, and I was a bit old. So they got 2 other people to do it. And we were delighted. It was a failure, complete failure. The great thing was that people had to use their imagination. When they were in a lake or a fire or something, people had their own idea of it. And they could imagine it much better than any scenery could give them. But once I played Paul Temple, all my other work died. I could only play detectives. They said people's minds are so extraordinary. All the producers suddenly dropped me and said, oh, yes, of course, you play Paul Temple. So you couldn't possibly do anything else. I moved up to Norfolk, and I'd been doing as a hobby shell work. It sounds awful. It has a dreadful name. But I have, and I'll show you these because it's rather interesting. And they are pretty unique. And people come to my gallery, and they come not to see the shells. I know immediately they come in, they wander around, and then they say, don't I recognize that voice? And I know perfectly well that's why they've come to see whether usually fairly elderly people, how they've stood up against me. This is why I can't bear having my photograph taken now. People had a picture in their minds of this rather strong chap who could deal with everything. And I like them to keep that picture, not to suddenly have a picture of an old, decrepit old man now. I hate it. And why is this such a success with no dreadful details of murders or drugs or anything? I just loved it. We were really a family by that time. It was so interesting. I loved it. It was the happiest time of my life playing Paul Temple.